Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today we have a special guest. This is Justin. Justin, you want to do a brief intro on yourself?
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I am a personal trainer in the city of Philadelphia. I still compete in a wide variety of races, endurance races to be specific, ranging from high rocks to Ironmans and marathons. But every day, Justin Rubin life, I'm a personal trainer and trying to make people healthier.
Yeah, I love that, man. And just before we hopped on, we were just talking about kind of like a little bit of your journey with that. So if you kind of want to dive into it, it seems like you've been in the fitness space a while and something that's, we both love. So
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've been a personal trainer and group fitness instructor since I got out of college. So I graduated in college in 2019. I had aspirations of going to NFL. It's a hard thing to do. And for a lot of student athletes out there, they put all their eggs in that basket, which I certainly did. And so there wasn't really a plan B. Plan B became wanting to be an athletic director. And the reason why I say all this is because I was doing an internship at Villanova doing my post grad time. And internship money is so great. You can certainly live well off of it, which did not play out too well. So I needed a little bit more money. And there was a group fitness studio that opened up right down the street from where I lived. The guy was open for 6 months. My mom was currently going there. She said, "Hey, Justin, looks like this guy could use some help." And joined him. And right before COVID, that happened. And so for a lot of people out there, I was able to have a gym. Um, was only part of that for a little bit before the pandemic hit. And we launched, man, 60 days straight of online free workouts for people. So at the same time, I was able to get paid, but at the same time, I was able to make money while doing it. And that was really the birth of fitness for me in terms of an occupation. So after COVID came, or I don't want to say went away, but the whole pandemic with gyms specifically and closures, when we were able to open back up is really when I took a full swing into fitness and made it my living. So a lot has happened since then to now. But that's what got me into fitness.
yeah, that's awesome. And just something I want to touch on to go back a little bit and then we'll go right back in is so you played football at Richmond, correct?
Yeah, I played football at Richmond. I was a outside linebacker and middle linebacker there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what did the like roadmap to the NFL look like? I have a couple friends. My next door neighbor specifically, grew up with him. He was D2 route. He just grew like a monster out of nowhere, 6'5", 6'6", 250 pounds. And I mean, you know how it works too. It's funny because he's at Assumption College, D2, putting up like 10 catches, 100 yards a game, and a touchdown, and like he goes to the NFL and just becomes a blocking tight end. And it's just
Yeah.
like the craziest thing. But it's yeah. So I'm curious to hear your kind of path.
Yeah, so I would say I feel like it's everybody's goal when they're young and they're athletic and they play sports. Oh, I want to go pro and do this. And then you get to the level right before that, which would be college, and you're playing every Saturday game. Your starter, and you have your coaches saying, "Hey, this could be a real thing," and you hear that from your coach. It's like, oh my God, you really start believing it. You really, what I've now called it is, chasing the carrot. Some people do catch it, but for a lot of us, we don't. And the route is different for everybody. Obviously, there are people who are at these Power Five schools who may be second string and have a better shot than a starting middle linebacker does at a Division I AA school. Or you are just raw talent. You are above and beyond. Those people will be found. Now, at the level I played at, very rarely did you see um, round one picks, but there were people who I've played with who are still playing in the league today, or have gotten that shot. But for me, it was I didn't redshirt as a freshman. So what that means is if you redshirt, then you don't play your first year there, and you gain a year of eligibility back. So you get a year, get stronger, learn the football a little bit more, at least in the system that you're at. I played special teams right away, started playing a little bit on certain packages, and then broke the starting lineup my sophomore year. and started all the way throughout. So what that looks like, you go through pro day. Pro day is a day where coaches come out. We had about 16 NFL teams come out and, time us. If you remember Madden back in the day where
Yep.
you'd be doing the joystick, you had that real moment with scouts there. You look up, you see everybody with a stopwatch, and you're like, "Holy shit, I'm really here." But for me, I didn't get an invite to a camp. I did get some interest from the CFL, but truth be told, I had a lot of injuries, some which were quite scary. Being told that you could have a paralyzed, arm. And then you start weighing the options. Okay, if it was not the NFL, then for me it was nothing. And so I decided to put it to rest and not chasing it and chasing it and chasing it. Now there are a lot of people out there who are still that I'm friends with are still doing it, and kudos to them. Hang on to the dream. I'm not going to tell you to let go of that dream, but I think for a lot of people, they still chase it with no real guarantee, and they're putting a little bit of a pause on the rest of the life outside of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to balance, and especially like as you develop as a man, like your values change and life changes.
Yeah.
Curious, have you changed the mindset of like you mentioned like kind of I'm the same. I mean, if you can tell I'm the same way. We just go all in. Like this is what we do. But how have you like pivoted that to different areas of your life, and like how do you feel that served you?
Yeah. I think being a football player, I get this question all the time is, are you going to let your kid play football? And I think for a lot of people who are listening, you can take this into any sport. For me, it was football. I've learned more about life, the sport of football, than anything else. Um, there's things that come up over and over and over again. They look different, but it's the same lesson over and over and again that you can apply that I learned from the sport. Putting others first, sacrifice, putting in the time, you know, and I want to hit on that is a lot of people put in a little bit of time and expect a lot back when it's not that. You have to keep showing up, you have to keep going. I think being a football player, especially in college and being around some real savages has prepped me for a lot. And you and I both know Kellen, and it's like, Kellen, I would consider someone who's like a teammate at this point. And it's like, hey, this dude's gonna push that shit out of me. But when we line up, we're gonna make each other better, and it's a lot of fun. But there's been a lot of correlation between football and college and life. And I think when people get hit with adversity, there's tons and tons and tons of adversity within football, a game, a practice, a season, whatever it may be, that you're going to have to get over. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned is how to deal with adversity in life.
Yeah, that's such an interesting take, and I have a bunch of friends that do bodybuilding, and we often like balance like they often kind of look at the conundrum of like, would you let your child get into bodybuilding because obviously it's unhealthy,
Mm,
you could do steroids, but then the other end of the coin is like most people drink at some point in their life, and it's like they're always risking something. So like to not let your kid play football, it's like, well, you probably shouldn't let him drive a car because people die in car accidents. Like I'm
yeah.
agreed, like that CTE and all the, it's definitely scary, but it's also like we're here to live. So it's like you have to also do the thing.
Yeah. I think that to answer that question, what I've told people is like, one, I'm gonna leave it up to my kid. Do you want to play football? I'm not gonna make them do whatever they want. Am I going to encourage it? Sure. But would I be opposed to the idea of, hey, learning the game of football through eighth grade, and when you get into high school, then you can throw the pads on? For me, I think there's a lot in growing up. I saw it. I still see it when I stop by a practice. It's like you get these coaches who are just dads, and they get really excited about a big hit that these kids are making against each other, and you don't really stop and look at, okay, what's actually happening here. Is this just cool, or is this the safety of the kid? And so for me, that's what I advise parents. Okay, well, who's the coach? I never want to be my son's coach or my daughter's coach for that matter. I want them to learn a lot on their own, how to deal with different things in that factor. But for me, it's probably going to be up to my kid if they want to do it. And when they're ready to slap the pads on, slap them on.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to kind of fast forward back to like present day and where we're at and look into the fitness gear of stuff. I'm in a similar boat. Me and two friends that you're aware of, Dan and Greg, opened a mentoring and coaching business. And it's funny, and I'm curious to hear your take on it. Like the fitness industry for so long was looked at like a trainer in a workout world, or whatever gym you want to insert. And I feel like it wasn't a profession that was taken serious, and it might be because we're more involved in the game now, but I feel like people are starting to take it serious. And at the same end, like your health is the most important thing you have, so it should be. But I'm curious, honestly, being in the field for a while, like view of a fitness professional, have you seen it change and evolve?
Absolutely. And I would say that the pandemic was a huge player in that. The pandemic highlighted the importance of being healthy. You saw, if it was just, we're looking at the metric of unhealthy versus healthy in terms of physically active people. People who were not physically active had a way more chance of dying at COVID than the people who were in a fit population. And there's all these other factors that we can look at. But for me in my field, that's what I looked at. And it's like, hey, there's obviously a concern here. And before that happened, and people knew me as a trainer getting into it, and like, oh, like get a real job, or go apply to do something that you're really not interested, but it's going to pay the bills. It's going to get you covered medically and do the traditional route. I think now, after the pandemic, and then after seeing, let's be honest, that you can make a real living from coaching nowadays, because I think the importance of it has shifted. I think a lot more people are gearing in this direction, which obviously makes it more saturated. But I think anything worth doing in this world is probably going to be a saturated field. I think now people respect it. People of all ages respect it. You're seeing people of younger populations get into the gym faster. I think Planet Fitness just released a report where they had the highest measurement of people register for a gym membership at that age. And then on the flip side, you have a 70-year-old, which I mentioned the other day with a buddy of mine, just set a world record championship at 70 years old. And so I think these people in general look at fitness and are like, okay, there's only this window where I can be fit, whether it's in your teens or in your 20s or in your early 30s. And then people think when they have kids, it's long gone and over with. And to be honest, and in this endurance world, which we're stepping in, I think that's prime time now, is your 30s, your 40s. People are really putting on great times. But the moral of the story is there's no age on it. It really is a lifelong commitment. And closest thing I could say is it's like your finances. You have to put an investment in every day to have a long, healthy life. And it's not cheap for sometimes. Gym memberships are getting expensive and more expensive. Personal trainers are getting more expensive, but at the same time, I think all of those expenses are worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you nailed a bunch of things there, but one that like is glaring to me is like the price objections you get from clients, because you understand the value you're giving to them and you don't want to saturate that, nor do you want to saturate the culture of people you work with. So it's like, no, this is the price point because this is what we offer and this is what you're getting, and it's a commitment on both ends. And
Yeah.
we meaning Infinite, me, Dan, and Greg, like we deal with that all the time. We'll have conversations and it's just price objection. And I'm like, I totally understand it. I'm not like, if it's not in your wheelhouse, like the same way that you have to sell a client, they have to sell you. Like it's a commitment to each other. Um,
Yeah.
but
That's a
yeah,
great point. I think, being in this game for a while, I'll say it admittedly, like I've had some tough clients, right? Not necessarily saying, hey, price objection, but people who have the money to spend, but just show up and be like, oh, like I'm checking the box. And to be honest with you, that pisses me off a little bit more. It's like, you're not really valuing this. You're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna put in the work. I'm gonna do this all for that hour that I'm with them, but at the flip side, they have everything handed to them outside of it to where there's no discipline. And I think that irks me more than people just not being able to afford it. And I get it, and personal training, coaching is expensive. And I think it should be. I think people are really, if people saw what the daily life looks like of a personal trainer, of a coach, and the amount of sacrifice that has to go into one single session, I think it would be appreciated more. But I don't think people really know what being a coach looks like in this day. And sure, You can automate a lot. You can, you know, cookie cut a lot of different programs, and just send them out to people. But I think for the people who are spending time in training personal training as personal training, you really find out, okay, there's a thing here that should be paid for.
Yeah, totally agree. And I laugh too because like for most people, like especially we deal with a lot of running clients, like half marathon, marathon, like your schedule, like it can only vary so much. What you're really getting is the value of the person that is writing out your schedule, and it's their time, it's their communication, it's the mentorship that is so crucial that it's like, I have so many friends that just have never even had like a gel pack in a half marathon. And it's just like they don't take electrolytes before they run. And I'm just like, you were like, I did that. And I'm not saying like totally get it. Like I've blown up in marathons, but you were just at such a disadvantage. That's where the mentorship is just a game changer. And you have these great coaches that are just setting up programs, like you said. And it's just numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think coaching is a real business. It should be something that you look to scale, and there's ways to scale appropriately, and there's ways that are like, hey, really low ticket items, which are again fine. It just depends on who the consumer is at that point, I would say. If someone's just looking for a generic plan that they can kind of do a little bit of math on their own, then yeah, sure. But I think there's a other side of people who have specific needs, specific goals, and need to get really in the weeds with those people. And again, all businesses should be scalable. And for fitness and fitness coaching, there should be a scalable option. And I'm not knocking that at all. I think it's a smart move. I just think the consumer has to realize which price point is better for them.
Absolutely. And I'd be curious to hear like where you're at present day and your the kind of future plans going forward.
Yeah. So I used to own a gym. I used to be able to say, yeah, I own a gym, and it was one of the best feelings in the world. Before we hopped on the podcast, we talked a little bit about this and been very open about this. I had to close my first gym. Well, I'm gonna put it there. And due to my music being too loud, they moved in a residential unit above me. That person did not love the fact that I was playing loud music at 5 a.m. in the morning. Um, and I will say that looking at the grand scheme of things, it was illegal for that person to live there, due to the zoning. However, as a young entrepreneur, you make your mistakes. And, there was a provision in the lease that kind of barred me, and I did end up getting kicked out of my lease. So there's a bunch of quick fix options that I took to keep that community intact, but I had to let it go for the better of myself, to stop hemorrhaging money in things that weren't really given back. And so now I am a true personal trainer in the city of Philadelphia. I go to people's condos, I go to people's apartment gyms, or regular gyms, and then I also teach group fitness at a company called Barry's, which is a fun 51-minute workout that has certainly been a fun thing on my end. I don't know if other people would call it fun. Someone made a joke the other day, is like, I have a different version of fun. And yes, I do.
Yeah, I think I have the same version of fun. But
Yeah,
I'm
you
curious.
texted me the other day. I'm gonna do a marathon Monday. I was like, what does he mean? I'm only heard a marathon Monday for Boston. And next year I checked Strava, and yep, he ran a marathon at a damn good pace.
Yeah, I was off. I had things moved around, and I was like, if you don't mind, I need to. I feel like I need something.
I love it.
But yeah, I'm curious to hear on your end. So, is it almost a freeing feeling not having the gym? Because obviously, being tied to a location, obviously, like having to be there all day long is a nighttime commitment.
Yeah, there's so many different feelings that have come from having it and then not having it. Um, having it, I was able to create a home of community, like-minded people who did not know each other beforehand, who are still to this day close friends. And I would guarantee that if anybody in that realm was going through something, that anybody in that community would show up for that person. And we definitely had that, small, but it was mighty. But on the flip side, I live in Philadelphia. That was a 45, 50-minute drive every morning. I would leave at 3:30 in the morning, not just wake up, leave at 3:30 to get there, make sure the lights were on, make sure I had my coffee, and make sure I was ready to go before my first client showed up. There was times where I'll be honest, my eyes would close while I was driving. Sleep. I look back at my Garmin data, and 4.5, 5 hours a night would be the regular night sleep for me, Monday through Friday. Friday would be the catch-up day, and then I'd go back and teach Saturday mornings before I went and taught at Barry's. So there's a lot of wasted time in there. There's a lot of value time in there. But I will say, moving to the city and then still going back out to Bucks County, which is where the gym was, I do have more time. I do have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule. But if I could still have that gym, if I could still have that community, I 100% would, and still ride through it and make my adjustments along that course rather than not having it and making those adjustments.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and I'm sure you don't know, but I was in a position like basically two times to open a gym. One was going to be a group fitness, and then one was going to be a newer style of fitness that takes like a PT approach to fitness. Both times, just like things didn't align, things didn't work. They both fell through. So I was in the same boat, and now I'm almost looking at it as like it, not an anchor by any means, because you're right. You have that in-person community, which is so special, and like just, I mean, social media is great, but it's not the same. But yeah, I look at it like where we are right now is where when we get to where we like quote unquote want to be, we're gonna look back and be like, that was so fun. And like I really like to take that step back and look at it from that perspective because like we're in a zone now where we're kind of just like taking steps and piecing things together. I really think like we're gonna look back and it's like this is like these are the years.
Yeah, that's the serendipity in it. And people ask, would you not open that gym if you had the choice today and kind of erase that moment and take back all the investments that you made in it? And I wouldn't. I would still do everything as I did, for knowing that it was going to be a failure. Um, there's so much that has been learned, and I don't think I would be who I am today if I didn't go through those moments. And we're still young. We're gonna mess up so many more times, and that's the fun in all this. As long as you don't hurt someone in the process, you don't hurt yourself in the process. um, I think every failure is one step closer to that success. um, some people have to take 5 failures, some people have to take 20, and that's fine. Everyone has their own course. But I think in these young entrepreneurial moments, these at bat moments, there's so many people out there who are scared to step in the batter's box and take their swings. So I want to give credit to the people that are doing it, regardless of how it's going to be on the outcome.
Yeah, it's so true, and it's same. Like I mean, I lost money and nothing even opened, and I'm just like, dude, and it's like it's crazy to say out loud, like enough. Like I'd rather just be in the fucking arena, and I think we take that into the fitness stuff, which if you want to hit on, like I mean, you're hammering like Ironmans and marathons, and but this is just what we do, and we have learned how to even just kind of gamify entrepreneurship, and it's the same way.
Yeah, I would say that because I was not always a marathon runner. I was not always an Ironman. But I did play sports. I did do hard things. I did train hard, right? But I think there's an aspect within fitness that maybe some people haven't gone to yet, and some people who have done it and really found an enjoyment in these moments is getting to a point where it's really uncomfortable and having to stick that out for maybe an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours longer than just pressing that quit button. And I think going through those moments in training, there's this quote that's, say, hey, what are you training for? You're training for life. I think there's a great connection between that. And the reason why we train is to take it into our daily lives. Is that, don't have a kid yet, but when I do have a kid, I want to stress these points and be like, hey, yeah, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be uncomfortable, but I promise you on the other side of that, it's gonna be worth it. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about this fitness space is it is as much as a mind game as it is physical. And I would even say it's more of a mind game. You know, if you can tell yourself that you can run another mile, get another 3 reps, or just suffer just a little longer when you're really ready to quit, that's going to be transferable to the outside world.
Yeah, it's so, so true. And something I definitely wanted to hit on. There's a lot of people in our space that are doing the things we do, and it's time consuming. And you mentioned, in the future having a child. Like when it comes to relationships, like obviously, I send it to people. I'm like, yo, these two are like this is the ideal. Like honestly, I don't even know you guys that well. I'm like, this is like the sickest thing in the world to me. But
Yeah,
if you want to touch on your relationship with your girlfriend,
absolutely. So me and my girlfriend Jess, we met last year, man, last year, 13 months ago. And we met through a supplement company, BPN. And, I still have the gym. We connected on Instagram. We had a workout, which was just going to be a workout and on a friend vibe, and we're working out and we start getting into it. I like it's a Friday night. I just told you like those would be my time where I crashed. And this girl walks in and we start making some content, and I woke up for sure. And next thing you know, we get coffee. We talk about going to the Austin Marathon together, still as friends. And I think, and we talk about all the time that day, at that coffee shop when we're talking about Austin Marathon is when things really started clicking. And, I've had a relationship in the past, and so is she, and we talk about this a lot, is there's nothing better than being with someone that gets it. I think when we say that word gets it, then I know you know what that means, right? I know Kellen knows what that means. I know Dan knows what that means. Greg knows, right? But from a significant other standpoint, right? Hey, do you get it? Do you get what I need? Do I get what you need? Having that, and for us, it's fitness and it's racing, makes our lives a little bit easier. Um, when we both wake up at 4 a.m., and we're not looking at each other like we're weird. We're like, all right, let's get this day started. Let's get our coffee, and we have a routine. Having someone that's going to go to bat with you and not necessarily give you shit for the things that you do, and waking up early just to run some miles and not wonder why you're doing it, or better yet, question it in general, to not have someone question that has been a game changer for me. Um, for Jess, she's doing ultra marathons. She's going to do 100 miles this year. We talked about going sub 3 in New York together. We ran New York City together. Both of us did not hit that goal, but being able to live with that person and talk about these goals on a daily basis has been life changing. She's definitely my best friend. We share a dog now, which is another element. And so I don't have kids, but a dog has got to be the closest thing that you can to have a kid, and balancing that. We both have big goals. We both have goals that we have not done yet that are going to require a lot of time. I want to do another Ironman. She wants to do 100 miles. How do we effectively do that? Take care of our relationship, take care of our dog, which, maybe one day will be a kid, and what does that look like now, and how we make those repetitions count to when we do have those bigger factors in the picture, but yet we're still able to crush Ironmans, we're still able to crush ultra marathons, because for us it's a lifelong thing. It's not just this now because it's cool. We really do find a lot of pleasure in those moments. And for us, it's about balance, it's about communication. And I'll be the first one to tell you sometimes it's not easy, and we talk about it and we get over it. And we do fight, of course. Every relationship will fight, but I think it's a matter of understanding and where is that person coming from to make those big goals obtainable.
yeah, no, that's awesome. So it's almost like compromise, but not for like the non-negotiables.
Yeah. Yeah. It's holding each other accountable. It's we know each other both very well, and we'll point out to each other like, hey, like you're taking it easy right now, and you don't have time to do that. And to have that from your significant other is really gold. And then you look at our fridge. I mean, goodness gracious, there's it's as clean as a fridge as I've ever had, that's for sure. And so having those little things in terms of training, and I will say this, I used to go to bed at 11:30 every night. I'd feel like I needed to come home and like, stay awake for a little bit just to enjoy a little bit of life. But now bedtime, I've gone to bed more times before 9 o'clock than I ever have in my life, and that's a great testament to her, and Jess. And when you think about, okay, where are the benefits in this? That is probably one of the biggest benefits outside of just having your relationship goals. Someone that does something better for you, is great. And so, huge thank you to her and everything that she does for this relationship.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. I'm telling you, like sending people, I'm like, this is awesome. And I have a new girlfriend myself, and it's funny because she absolutely gets it, but she's not in the endurance world, which is also like a good, like almost solitude time for me. And I talk about this all the time, but like the gets it aspect is so crucial because you just need someone that like has their thing, right? Like almost like an obsession or like a fixation on something. And it just it's the only way someone's gonna understand someone like us. Like there's really no other way.
Yeah, and we talk about it a lot where it's like we get caught up in social media. Like we see it, all these people doing these big things. Then I look at you and you're out running 30 miles. I'm like, damn, today's supposed to be my rest day. And it's like I get this feeling that I need to do more and go out there. And we both are like that. We're like, damn, did we do enough today? But we also give each other the reassurance that, hey, you just crushed it yesterday. Today is a strategically good idea. Some people listen to that strategically good idea or not, but we're there to tell each other the things. But say we weren't both doing these big races, these ultras, these high rocks, whatever it is, I think if you're in a relationship with a go-getter, someone who has high octane energy or needs to get out of the house for hours and go hit the pavement for a while, whatever it is, being in a relationship, it's super important to let that avenue be explored. And if you're not doing it, that is so fine. You do not have to go run these 30 miles, these 20 miles, whatever it is. But I think in order to get that and understanding, you have to have something in your own life that you're working towards, something that you're putting in extra hours towards. Because if one go getter is with a non go getter, I it's hard. It's hard, and
Yeah.
I think we can all just think in our heads right now. It's like, okay, yeah, I see how that makes sense. I know personally in my life that's been a case for sure, and for me, I needed to make different moves to feel like I could do these long extra hours of training. It doesn't have to be necessarily, physical, but like taking on an extra session in a day, without apologizing for it.
Yeah. No, it really is so true. I'd be curious. So I ask everybody, is what keeps you going?
The story of my buddy, 28. So the name of my gym was 28 Reasons. Um, my buddy, my good friend Gus Lee, he took his life in college. He was a sophomore. I was a senior. I wore number 29. He wore number 28, and it was finals week. And we were done football, and he ended up taking his life during that time. It was a knee buckling moment for me. But stepping into this field without knowing that I'd open up a gym, right? And hearing people say, hey, like, you don't really know it, but you changed my life and you've saved my life when you said this after class without even talking to them directly, but they heard a certain message or I said something or I just showed up for them. And I find in life that a lot of people out here don't have anybody showing up for them. And for me, I want to be that person that is showing up for someone, is showing up and seeing the struggles that I've gone through and still hit a race or still try and raise a business. I think there's a lot of people who will crumble at one aspect of adversity. And adversity looks a little different for everybody. But for me, just to keep showing up time and time again, through hard times and ultimately enjoying life. I think doing it for other people, doing it for something bigger than myself, and that looks different, but more times than not, it's about my buddy Gus and for those people who are in those dark spots.
I love that, man. I lost my uncle to suicide, and it's just one of those things as well where like you just you don't know, and it's terrifying. And I think the one thing that we both do, and it's so funny because I met you in Philly. We were like on a run, and like you just know, like when it's like when the dude's real, you just know, and it's like you click right away. And it's that because what we do is cultivate showing up for ourselves first. You know, we do it for everyone in our lives. Again,
Absolutely.
it's you're not nails all the time, but it's just the act of doing the thing.
Yeah. Ben, I'm sorry about your uncle, man. It's not a tough thing to go through at any stage of life, but I'm sure he's here with you today and along with you on those miles, man. And yeah, it's to your point about meeting each other. Met each other through Kellen, saw you on Kelly Drive a bunch of times. How many miles are you at? I'm just getting started. You're at 20. I'm like, all right, this guy is I want to be around this guy, you know?
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
I think there's importance in that, as guys, to stick with people who do get it. A lot of people will fall off in this world and fall off of that thing that they were on because staying on is hard. But being around people who are still doing it, going through the everyday aspects of showing up and trying to move that needle just a little further, I think there's power in staying with those people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ellen, yeah, Ellen's the goat. Like
Yeah,
it's so true, and it's awesome seeing you guys crush runs together, and just this community as a whole, like fills me up, really does.
yeah, man, for sure. I've maybe this is year three technically of endurance racing, and I feel like I'm just starting to get a taste of the true benefit of it, and I'm loving it and encourage a lot of people to really step into this arena. Tough, and it's hard to stay consistent, but it's a journey worth traveling.
I love it. That's where we got to end this one, man. I appreciate the
Love it
time.
for sure,
Thanks, brother.
Kevin.